Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Friday morning to you all. I hope you guys are doing awesome out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day. A great ending to your week, a beginning to your weekend, whatever it may be for you folks out there. We got a lot to talk about in this morning's video, and that's exactly what we'll do. The first thing we'll discuss is the tropics. I think there's a pretty decent shot that we're going to have a tropical storm that forms in the Caribbean over the next several days. Is this going to become a hurricane? We still need to figure a lot of things out. So we'll speak on what we know. We'll go over the latest on what's going on right now, latest from the National Hurricane Center, all the model guidance from overnight to this morning. And then we'll speak on an active weather pattern upcoming over the next several days for the lower 48. We're going to have an opportunity for severe weather, potentially a multi-day setup of severe weather over the next few days, pretty much the entire weekend, all the way into early next week. And I honestly think we're going to be talking about this for a while, as I really think we'll have an active pattern over the middle of the country. We'll talk about how much rain could fall. Some people have already seen a lot of beneficial rains. There's more on the way for some folks, not everybody, but for some. We'll speak on the ingredients on that. And of course, we got you covered as far as what's going to happen weather-wise across the entire lower 48 for your Friday. We'll get very detailed on that also. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. Folks, it's slow right now. The channel isn't getting a ton of views, which is totally fine. But with that being said, not as many comments, not as many things to go through. So definitely just make sure you put your prayer requests down there. I got more time to I love spending more time on those prayer requests. So typically when it's just crazy, the views are going wild, it's hard to spend a lot of time on one specific thing. But when it's slow like this, I can. So if you got anything going on, you're lonely, you need somebody to talk to, reach out to me on social media. And I'm here to lend an ear for you folks and just vent to whatever you got going on. It's a wild world out there for sure. So with that being said, let's get rocking and rolling this morning. I'm feeling pretty good. I don't know about you guys. It's Friday, November 1st. Merry Christmas, by the way. Just kidding. I don't want to offend anybody that thinks that I'm skipping right over Thanksgiving. I'm not. I love Thanksgiving too. But anyways, as far as what's going on right now in the Caribbean, it really doesn't look overly impressive as far as anything ongoing. This is kind of the area we're watching, right? But I mean, it's pretty void of any shower and storm activity right now. In fact, if you compare this morning compared to the last few mornings, it definitely is a lot less impressive out here. So we just got to continue to watch this. Just because we're not having convection right now doesn't mean we won't have it over the next several hours. So is anything going to get going in this area? That's the big question mark. We're also watching this area over here that has a less of a chance of developing, but it does have a chance. Okay, anything that forms in this area most likely will either do something like this or drift this way. We are thinking. Okay, so that's what's going on right now. Not a whole lot to circle or really even talk about as far as what's developed, because there is nothing. The latest from the National Hurricane Center. This is the latest 2 a.m. updates. Do we have another update? We do not. So just a 2 a.m. update. We do have two other areas to watch. This has a 20% chance to develop into some sort of subtropical low or non-tropical low, honestly. It's not going to impact anybody. Could bring some unsettled weather to Europe, of course, but we are watching. And then we're watching this little area, which, for whatever reason, there it is, has a 10% chance to develop sometime in the next 7 days. And now we're going to have to go back and click this. But this is the main area we're watching, okay? Has a medium chance. If it goes up another 10%, that's a high chance. So it has a 60% chance, and here's a little discussion, 60% chance of something developing in this area sometime within the next 7 days. It's crazy, November 1st. It's just weird seeing that, but here we are. It's still warm down here as far as sea surface temperatures, but broad area low pressure could develop into a depression, or heck, maybe even a storm sometime over the next 7 days, up to a 60% chance of this now. So let's take a look at all the latest model guidance we have. It's the latest GFS, and we'll start off by around Sunday or Monday morning. So here over the next few days on the GFS, this is Sunday morning. It's saying we're going to have 1,002 millibar low over the next 48 hours down here. So something's got to get going pretty quick for this to happen. Got to see if it does. GFS, we get into Monday, quickly develops an all-out strong tropical storm, a low-end Category 1 hurricane by the time we get into Monday morning, and then pushes it, tiny little thing, into the Greater Antilles, right around the Jamaica, Hispaniola area. develops into a Category 1 hurricane, makes landfall, into eastern Cuba, the southern shorelines of eastern Cuba, and then proceeds to sort of grind down Cuba, heads back west, and then gets off the western tip of Cuba. Weird steering currents. That's always how it is this time of the year. And then tries to re-strengthen a little bit in the southern Gulf of Mexico. The waters are a lot warmer in the southern Gulf of Mexico compared to the northern Gulf of Mexico, I will add. So this part's a lot cooler. But it proceeds to develop some sort of tropical system here out of that 10% area. So we have 2 tropical storms ongoing right now. Okay, but this is about a week from today. And then it redevelops this into an all-out hurricane in the central Gulf of Mexico, weakens this system, and then proceeds to get picked up by a trough and weakens considerably before landfall. And 10 days from now, we have just a weak tropical system making landfall along the Gulf coastline. Something like this is 10 days from now. Folks, this is a lot of zigzagging and weaving here. We're not sure what's going to happen to this, but most model guidance now has some sort of low pressure developing down here. And I honestly would just stop it at about 120 hours out and leave it at that. Once you get 10 days out, everything gets kind of weird. Now, the Euro, which has been stuck on being conservative, is still pretty conservative, but it's a little bit more aggressive. Start off on Monday, let's go all the way to Monday morning. We have this broad low pressure, weak low pressure, but it's there for sure. And then we get into Tuesday, whatever's here, very broad area of cyclonic spin down here, drifting west, northwest. And eventually we get into Wednesday. It's still there, just a weak low pressure. And then we get into Thursday morning, and it sort of kind of goes the same direction, just a little bit differently as far as how it evolves as the GFS. Splits the gap between the Yucatan and Cuba, gets into the Gulf of Mexico. And I know a lot of people are thinking, man, this gets in the Gulf of Mexico, it's going to blow up. Folks, it's a different ball game. We're in November now. The sea surface temperatures have cooled considerably. So we could have a massive, I wouldn't say massive, but a big time hurricane in the southern Gulf of Mexico, but it would likely weaken considerably just solely because of sea surface temperatures. But it does kind of do what the GFS does and sort of drift down here in the kind of south central Gulf, if you will, about 7-8 days from now, and just eventually sort of just kind of keeps us going right into the coastline of Mexico. It does not do the hook like the GFS and bring it into the Gulf coastline. What about the Euro AI model? This model is easy like Sunday morning. I mean, it is, I think that it kind of takes the middle ground of all model guidance, and I'm really starting to like this model. Once I started seeing yesterday that this was now showing something, I said, hey, okay, this has a legitimate shot of becoming something, Patty. All right. So as we get into Wednesday morning, all right, the Euro AI model shows a tropical storm, weak tropical storm, just south of Cuba, on the western tip of Cuba. Okay. Makes a landfall technically in the western areas of Cuba, then gets in the Gulf of Mexico. We get in the next Thursday morning, November the 7th. And we have just a tropical storm. And you notice how the millibars begin to rise in numbers a little bit, begins to weaken, but just eventually throws a big slug of moisture sometime like at the end of next weekend into the Gulf coastline. So 2 out of 3 of the models hook whatever forms down here into the Gulf coastline. How strong is this going to be if it does? The Canadian, we'll just show you this, all the way out to Tuesday evening, November the 5th, has a tropical storm here. And the Canadian proceeds to do exactly what the GFS and the Euro AI model does and takes a tropical storm right into the panhandle of Florida about a week from today, next Friday morning. And folks, some people might not like what I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it. We could use this rain. I know you're thinking, man, dude, chill. But I would love just a weak, maybe slug of tropical moisture to get thrown right into the southeast. I mean, I don't want 8 inches of rain in an hour or a day or even a week, but a half an inch to an inch of rain would do a lot of people good across the southeast. It will help with the fire risk and danger that is quickly developing across the southeast. The mountains have received a little bit of rain since Helene, but a lot of people are at day 35 without rain across the southeast. I am. No measurable rain since Helene. 5 weeks today, no rain. So we need some rains. We don't need it all at once, but we need some rain. And the Canadian certainly brings it. And then the Icon, the latest one, this goes out to about next Tuesday night. has a tropical storm or just a tropical depression just south of western Cuba. Okay, and if we do look at the OOZ model here and we kind of proceed with the rest of the run, and it kind of follows more so the Euro. It wants to take this further west and doesn't hook it, at least through a week out. So what about the GEFS ensemble? This is from overnight. This is for, what is this? I think this is all the way through Thursday morning. Okay, develop something down here, and this makes up 21 members, and some of these members are strong. Not overly strong, but definitely tropical storm, low in category 1 status, especially the further south these go. But you notice most of these members kind of heading to the Northwest Caribbean or either the Gulf of Mexico. And if we go on and just take this, a week out, okay, and we're still talking about this, if this is a thing. All right, we still got a lot of members down here, over here in the Gulf of Mexico. Some are still down here over the Yucatan, even a couple still in the in the Caribbean. Okay, so what about the GEFS ensemble a week out? Okay, makes up 51 members. And this is a pretty loud signal off the Euro ensemble. Okay, it's more west, just like the operational run. You got this one straggler member that's, I would say, a worst case scenario, takes just an all out, category 2 or 3 hurricane right into the panhandle, but that's 1 out of 51 members. Okay, but here's all your members. You got over half of them showing a decent tropical system getting into the Gulf of Mexico. My version of a decent tropical system is a tropical storm. Okay, so we just got to watch this. I mean, there is a pretty heavy signal now for it. It's been a signal always, but I would say if there ends up becoming a tropical storm out of this, you say the GFS wins. Now, GFS has showed some pretty crazy and ridiculous runs, but if we get a tropical storm out of this, the GFS sniffed it out first, and I'll be one to admit it. Okay, but as far as sea surface temperatures, it's still plenty warm down here. It starts to cool off. This is in Celsius, 26, 27 degrees Celsius, but 30, 29, 30, 31 degrees Celsius down here in the Caribbean. That's still temperatures in the 80s in Fahrenheit. You start to get into the low 80s, upper 70s in the Gulf of Mexico. So it starts to cool off considerably, but it's still not cold or anything like that. So, you still got the ingredients there. And then one thing we haven't talked about a lot is the upper wind pattern. And this is the Euro ensemble, the EPS. And I will tell you, there's a lot of divergence aloft. So this is where it basically combines all the members that form and averages out, kind of creates a mean of the average low pressure. And it's 1,008 millibar low around next Thursday morning. But one thing you'll notice here is I'm going to draw on this a little bit. You see how in the upper levels of the atmosphere above this storm, you got a lot of air being dispersed outward. And then it kind of goes like this, fans out like that, like that, like that. So what do we call this? ULAC, upper level anticyclone. It's when you're getting air pushed out away from the system. It's allowing for more air to rise. We know that rising air allows for consistent in the firing of shower and storm activity. So the upper wind pattern is decently supportive for tropical development in the Caribbean and maybe even for a time in the Gulf of Mexico before troughs begin to dig down and sort of rip the system apart, if it does. So that's an update on the tropics. Let's speak a little bit on the severe weather risk. We're going to skip a day and go into tomorrow. This is for our Saturday. We do have a level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather. And let's go on and zoom into this a little bit. This is for the hill country and really just the western sections of Texas here, Midlands, down here to almost Fort Stockton, south of Lubbock, the I-20 corridor here in Texas and western Texas is going to be the highlight area. We have a level 2 out of 5 risk. There is a risk of severe weather also all the way up to Oklahoma City, and I could see this getting extended a little bit further to the northeast. But what's driving this? The tornado risk. I mean, there is a 5% risk of a tornado within 25 miles of any given location tomorrow for this brown area. The green area, that is a 2% risk. The brown area, a 5% risk. And the risk of damaging winds, just a 5% risk. Wind threat isn't a huge deal, but the hail threat tomorrow is. In fact, there's a risk of significant hail. Okay, in the yellow area, you have a 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. You got the same risk here in the black outlined area. Okay, but you also have a 10% risk of significant hail. Okay, this includes Odessa, Midland, and all these areas you see right here. So there's a risk for, some of that gorilla hail and large hail. I know Reed Timmer loves saying that. Reed, gorilla hail, just very large hail. There'll be a lot of storm chasers down here that, do it for a living for sure. So should be interesting live feed for some of these areas. That's for sure. So we move forward and we look at day 3. This is for Sunday, large area. And this could easily get upgraded to an enhanced risk. It makes me think that someone will, especially with how large this is. But right now, as of Friday morning, a slight risk, level 2 out of 5. I mean, this is from the Fort Worth, Abilene, up the Wichita Falls area, Oklahoma City, all the way up to Wichita, Hutchinson, Dodge City, Hayes, and we'll kind of zoom into a couple areas here. Severe threat, not really into Kansas City. Doesn't mean you can't get anything, though. But this is kind of the area here. So let's back off a little bit. And what do we know about this? We just know that there is a 15% risk of severe weather. Okay, but when we get into tomorrow, it'll kind of do what it does. It'll upgrade the way it upgrades for tomorrow. It'll kind of break it down in category risk. But right now, level 2 out of 5 risk, 15% risk of severe weather. And then we get into Monday, folks, and Monday could be a big deal too. Same thing, we just know there's a massive slight risk for Monday, stretching from Quincy, Missouri, all the way down to Austin, Texas, all the way over to Little Rock, all the way over to Oklahoma City. Okay, kind of zoom into these areas right here. And you guys are on a slight risk. I can't wait to use this site during winter, guys. Weatherwise, it's web.weatherwise.app. I'm telling you, download their app, check out their site. Phenomenal site that we're going to use like crazy going forward. So we'll break down today's forecast when we get to today's forecast. But speaking on tomorrow, starting off tomorrow morning, we're going to have a lot of storm activity already in western Texas and the panhandle of Texas. Watch as we continue to move forward here into tomorrow afternoon. A lot of convection rising, southerly flow through eastern Texas, even into Oklahoma. Much needed rain. Not much in the form of severe weather, just much needed heavy rain. But then, kind of in the bottom boundary, we're going to watch a lot of energy feeding into the bottom flank of these storms. And I really think we can have a tornado threat, especially as we evolve and kind of push away this morning and early afternoon convection. I want to watch these storms right here to get going. You see this individual cell here, these cells here. This is getting closer to Lubbock or south of Lubbock, between Lubbock and basically Odessa. And then you get closer to Fort Stockton and San Angelo. But listen, these storms could be dangerous. A large hail threat, I would say a tornado threat is going to be there. And check out these storms kind of feeding off the leftover boundary from these storms, I reckon, here. And this is getting into tomorrow evening. This is sort of north of the highlighted area. So I do wonder if they will shift it north. But it shows some storms really getting going around 10 p.m. Tomorrow, south of Lubbock, north of Odessa. But I really think we'll get a couple supercells that fire up down here too. And then not to ignore the severe weather threat in Oklahoma. Tomorrow afternoon, this is around 5 p.m. These storms will probably affect some football games, outdoor activities. We'll have some storms flying through the entire state of Oklahoma, North Texas, all the way to the Dallas-Fort Worth area tomorrow night. And this is as far out as it goes. So the updraft velocity swath, folks, it really highlights this area right here, between Lubbock and Odessa, with the most spin with these storms. But this could shift south. It's wild is, like I said, the highest threat of severe weather is kind of south of this area. It does highlight that area south of Lubbock. But in fact, now that I look at it, it seems like they got it dead on. South of Lubbock to Odessa. Well, I guess what I'm saying is it doesn't show much storm action kind of south of the 20 corridor. But just keep in mind, and that's in this area right here, we could definitely get some nasty storms down here too. And then, getting into Sunday, folks, and we can only really look at some of these global models here. And Sunday, a lot of storm activity down here in Oklahoma, North Texas, Arkansas. But we're likely going to get some storms that fire in Kansas too. It's just not really showing it much. It might happen later at night. And then we start to get into Monday. And I think Monday has the potential to be a bigger threat. We have a low ejecting across the high plains. Check out the snow breaking out over, areas of Colorado, northern New Mexico. And then we just have an all-out low-pressure ejection across this area of the country. And I think this area right here, as we get into Monday, could have a more significant severe weather risk than what they're saying right now. And I think they're seeing it, but I want to watch Monday. Monday might be a bad day across this area right here. I know this is just showing splotches of green and orange and yellow, but just think of that as a lot of storm activity. And we got to watch Tuesday too. As of now, we won't dive too much into Tuesday, but as far as what's driving this, we'll start Sunday morning. Big upper trough diving down. A lot of southwesterly flow shooting across this area. If I kind of leave my cursor here, it says 54 knots, 47 knots. So a lot of mid to upper level flow riding over the middle of the country. This provides a lot of lift for thunderstorms. It brings up a lot of low level moisture from the south. And as you can tell into Sunday, the low level flow does nothing but increase in this area. So I do think the damaging wind threat will increase Sunday into Monday. And then we get into Monday. Check out how this trough continues to move, and it almost looks like it begins to get pinched off a bit. Kind of turns into a cutoff low, not completely, but kind of makes its way to that stage. And as we get into Monday, that is some southwesterly flow right here in this area, providing a lot of lift, wind energy for these storms, kinematic energy. And then, like I said, we got to watch for Thursday too. I think we could have some sort of straight line wind threat across areas of the Midwest, maybe Ohio Valley. And in response to such a deep digging trough, this is going to pull up a lot of southerly flow. So therefore, Saturday, check out all the moisture building into Texas, dew points well into the 60s. And then we get into Sunday. Same deal, folks. A lot of moisture pulling even further north, all the way up into Iowa. Big time moist sector building into this area. And then we get into Monday, and we do it again. I really think Monday could be with the bigger day. That's what I'm thinking right now. Deep moisture in place. Cold front boundary not surging, east quite yet. We got dew points all the way up into the 60s, potentially into the UP of Michigan. A few days into November. It's ridiculous. But a big time moist sector. And then we got to watch, for Tuesday too, for, someone to get some severe weather also. So rainfall, because of all this energy ejecting across the middle of the country, it's between now and the next 5 days. They're going for, check out Oklahoma. I mean, they're going for 5 to 7 inches of rain right here in the middle of Oklahoma. As far as Texas, I mean, kind of know this is the resolution of this is really bright here. But this is Texas right into here. And a lot of rain for eastern Texas over the next few days, especially over the next couple of days. Couple inches, much needed rain. Not going to get it all at once, so that's the good news. And then here's the corridor of, where all the rain could fall right through here. That's a good swath of 2.5, 3 to 4 inches of rain. So much needed rain in this area. And then, just going forward here, I want to watch another system late next week. I'm not going to talk much on it, but this looks to maybe bring a big time snow event potentially for, areas of the Four Corners region. We'll have to see what happens with that, but I don't want to dive too much in that. But as far as what's happening right now, let me check my time. Might be running low. I'm good. We got a big system moving into the Pacific Northwest. We got a thin area of showers trying its hardest to survive east of the Alps. Just don't think it will. We got some moderate rain falling across Maine and the northeast areas. And then we got a little bit of moisture across the Dakotas, but overall not a big deal right now. Watches, warnings, and advisories, red flag warnings plaguing southern New England. We need some rain up here. Flood watches up for areas of New Mexico and western Texas. We got winter weather advisories in the purple, winter storm warnings in the pink into the western U.S. As far as the excessive rainfall outlook, we could get a good bit of rain here in these areas today. And we don't need a whole lot of rain because we had that flooding disaster. I believe it was in Roswell, New Mexico. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong there. But there is a slight risk, 15% risk of rainfall exceeding flash flood guidance. And then we have a risk of flash flooding here too. But looking in the southeast, how much will those showers survive? I don't think they will. East of the Alps, I think we could get some showers, maybe into the western Carolinas, North Georgia, maybe some showers in central Alabama, central and then southern Mississippi. We'll talk about Louisiana here in a second when we get to the south central tab. But outside of that, folks, another dry day, another rainless day. Could wake up to some light rain in North Carolina tomorrow, but just continues to be a very dry stretch. The Northeast, we're dealing with some shower activity. We could continue to get some showers today in Maine into the interior New England area. Some showers are possible this evening around the Tug Hill Plateau. No snow with this, just good old-fashioned light rain. And then we get into tomorrow morning. Could be waking up to some light precipitation across certain areas, but not a big deal across the Northeast today. And then down here in the South Central U.S., check out the rain that could start bubbling up here in Louisiana. Some showers and storms will start, affecting areas of Louisiana, southwestern, southern Mississippi. And then we'll just get some pop-up activity across Texas. It's really as we start to get into the overnight hours as when the storms really start firing in eastern New Mexico and the western areas of Texas. I mean, I don't think a lot will happen in the daylight. It's really after we get into after midnight, maybe. Storms start firing in eastern New Mexico, and then they kind of roll over into western Texas as we're waking up tomorrow morning. And we already kind of talked about what could happen tomorrow in the severe weather update. But, rainfall between now and the next 24 hours. Southeastern Louisiana could certainly get an inch, maybe 2 inches of rain. Very possible. Some much needed rain across areas of, here it is. Man, this is not coming in. There it is, Houston. A little bit of rain's possible across southeast Texas. Could get inch or so of rain down here near Corpus Christi in some of these areas. And then we could get some rain that starts to add up overnight, really, in eastern New Mexico. Maybe half an inch to an inch at most. But the north central U.S., well, watch this little disturbance here that's ongoing right now. It's kind of snuck up on us. This could bring a burst of winter weather to southeastern New Mexico. Southeastern North Dakota. If you live in this area and you're tuning in, let me know what you see today. But it does kind of peter out here, if you will, in northern Minnesota. It pretty much turns into some flurries and light sprinkles. And appreciate you guys sending me the photos of the snow. I shared them on my Facebook and Twitter. I'm going to start doing that more. Send me pictures that you got, especially if it's an abnormal event. I would love to share them. Just if you send them to me, say, hey, Mitch, I'm comfortable with you sharing them. So, don't have to sit there and go back and forth and say, hey, are you cool with me sharing them? Just let me know ahead of time, and I would love to share them. And I'm definitely going to obviously credit you, but definitely would like to start to get in the habit of doing that on my social media platforms, especially when we have unusual events. But the western U.S., a lot of precipitation moving into these areas. In fact, nobody else is really getting anything, so we might as well just kind of zoom into this area. A lot of precipitation moving into Oregon, Washington, Northern California. This will continue all the way into this evening. It'll continue overnight. It'll last all the way into tomorrow, and some snow will begin to fall in areas of the higher elevations of Nevada, Idaho, obviously Oregon and Washington. And, rainfall in this area, higher elevations, going to get a couple inches of precipitation of the coastal range and the Cascades, and a little bit of precipitation east of those areas. And, of course, we got the snowfall in these areas, too, but you got to get way up in elevation. Temperatures, warm across the southeast, mid-Atlantic, I-95 corridor. I mean, it's going to get into close to 70 all the way up into the down east areas of Maine. Nova Scotia, I mean, you folks going to get in the 60s today. Just happy November. It's, still September out here. But cooler up here in the Great Lakes region, kind of stuck in the middle in this area, nothing too crazy. And then this is the western U.S. I got to get going. God bless all y'all. Have a wonderful day. Have a great start to your weekend, and I'll talk to you again soon. God bless.